we got the captain on the line.
Hey, shalom, shalom, shalom.
How's everything?
Hey, Instagram decided the last minute to let me know to download the new version.
So this time it wasn't you.
Yeah, I was waiting.
Okay, this time it wasn't you. How's everything going before we get started
Hey,
in today's conversation? How's
everything's going. Hey, I got life, I got breath,
yes,
and I got family.
yes, that's what it's all about, man. I appreciate it. I know it's cliche to say Happy New Year, but how was it coming into this year of 2023 for you?
It's still cold to me. Everything's still dead. So the Hebrew New Year, or God's New Year, is based upon, like I said, the biblical standards is around March and April, right before Passover. So that's when everything comes to life. The flowers bloom, the animals come out, the bears come out of hibernation. So that's really the biblical New Year.
So let's go ahead and get today's conversation started. I want to ask you, well, you already know how we start off today's conversation. We're going to go directly into the word of the day. So I'm going to tell you the word of the day, and I want you to give your context to what you think this word is actually all about. So today's word of the day is increase.
Okay. Increase. So increase in terms of like growth, improvement, self-improvement, self-growth.
However you want to take it. When you hear the word increase, where do you take it, Captain? Talk to me.
So when I hear the word increase, I see self-improvement, self-growth, as well as discipline to measure up and increase your value. If I may read a scripture, because in order to improve, grow, or increase, you need some type of standard to improve or reach that level or height. It has to be measured based upon something. Now, this is Ephesians chapter 4, verse 13. Till we all come in the unity of the faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God, unto a perfect man, unto the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. So Christ is this level and standard that we should look to inspire to grow and increase and improve in all aspects and levels of life. So that's just my definition or interpretation of the word increase.
So when you think about, just increase, especially in a season like this where we're coming into a new season, just a new year, I would say in 2023, how can you tie in increase when it comes down to just the reference of a new year?
Now, the increase and improving ourselves, discipline, meaning bodily discipline, physical, mental discipline, spiritual discipline. Growth, like say, you might want to increase and improve in the job sector, financially, because the scriptures does say money is defense as well. So there's different, whatever your goals are, is where you should set your standards or where you want to go. So we try to use the Bible as a standard of growth and improvement.
So when it comes down to increase, can you see, and I'm going to ask you this directly to give an opinion. Can you see yourself in a space of increasing if you are in a spiritual warfare? Yes.
Think about it. The only way to improve or increase in a spiritual warfare, you cannot increase or improve without any type of pain. Spiritual warfare means you're going against yourself. You're going against societal norms. You're being attacked from all aspects and levels of life, and to be attacked literally by the powers to be. If I may read a scripture real quick, this is, give me 1 second, 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 1. And to decrease is to level up, to improve, and to suffer. This is 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 1. For as much then as Christ hath suffered for us in the flesh, arm yourself likewise with the same mind. For he that has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin. So in order for an individual to be able to increase or to improve oneself is to suffer, is to indulge or to engage in some type of thing, anything that is, like I said, that's painful, that you bring you to your next stage and level.
How can one truly understand that, and I think that's where a lot of us are right now. We feel like we're in a season of misery by ourselves, right? Because we're going through some type of spiritual warfare. And when it comes down to trying our best to increase and to get out of it, it's like we find ourselves in a space of pain. We find ourselves in a space of, no longer wanting to endure the pain. So we see a lot of people quitting. We see a lot of people not necessarily maturing or increasing because of the pain. The pain is becoming so overbearing. And that's actually going to go into my next segment, which I want to kick off today's conversation, just about, I love that you use the word pain, but right now it just seems like the pain is just becoming so overbearing that it's hard to increase.
Now, there's a cliche saying, they said only the strong will survive. And this is very cliche, but it's going to take mental.
That's cliche.
Yeah. And it really, like I said, in this day and age, in this society, everything from bills to finances to your loved ones to society, like I said, to societal pressures, everything's constantly pressing down on our spirits, our souls, and in our personal life. And it's hard to, like I said, to push forward at times. And the Most High wants us to fight for what we deserve. And this is scripture in Matthew chapter 24, verse 13 says, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. So the way this system has been set up, it's been set up to bring forth affliction or pain unto us in order to develop mental fortitude to see whether we're worthy or not. Because you can't really measure somebody when everything is going well for them. When the finances, the bills being paid, when things are going right, when they have a good job, the family's in good spirits, everything is just laid out for them. You can only determine a person's characteristic is through the face of adversity. A person shows his true colors when they're actually going through trials or when they're going through problems. You know who your real friends are when you're going through problems. Who's going to stick through you through thick and thin. You know who your loved ones are when you're going through problems. And you know who you are and how you react in certain situations.
So do you feel like because we are living in, and this is all painted, this is just stemming from the word of the day. And if you have any questions or comments as well, please jump in. And I want to ask this last question before we actually get into our topics, right? But do you feel like this is, all stemming from just a human experience, because we're having these human experiences that we have to endure some type of infliction of pain because of the consequences of Eve actually eating the apple?
Well, Eve never ate an apple. just to reference that. I know you might not. That's just a Christian mysticism that they brought into the scriptures. But anything that, like I said, if you look at anything that grows in life, increases, or like I said, that measures up to anything, it takes strength, fortitude. For a chick to hatch out of the egg, guess what? It's engraved into something hard that needs to dig its way out of. You see, or when a flower blooms, guess what? It got to break out of the seed. When a diamond is fashioned, it's one of the hardest rocks. So you got to really mold the diamond to what it is. So even when it comes to a human's growth, it takes perseverance to really become the person you need to be. And it takes pain. It takes pressure. Pressure breaks pipes, but pressure also forms commodities such as diamonds, your gold. It doesn't have any value until it goes to that pressure. It's forged in fire. And that's where, if I could read this real quick also, this is Sirach chapter 2, verse 5. Sirach chapter 2, verse 5. For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity. So you're only acceptable, and you're only accepted by the Lord, the most God, only when you're tried in the fire, when you go through pain, you go through hardships, and you suffer. Only then can you really become the person that you're made to be.
So I want to ask you that question. I don't want to go back, but I want to ask you that question. What do you mean when you say, just because you stumped me a little bit, what do you mean when you say about the reference to Eve?
Okay. The reason why I said that, because the world's view, the Christian view that's been taught to us in the Christian church, is that Eve ate the apple. That was the first sin. That wasn't the first sin. If you go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, it tells you what the first sin is. The book of Genesis is all allegorical. So, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. 1 second, let me get it. Okay, right here. So, Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14, verse 27. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. So it never said an apple. It said the fruit, if you accept it as fruit. So the fruit is symbolic to, it can go to the fruits of the spirits, meaning your attributes, your actions towards something that brings forth it brings forth something So also the fruits could go to your doings, your works.
Mm-hmm.
So the seed that you plant, whether it be good or evil, is the type of fruit that springs out. So Eve, the first thing that she partook in and that she accepted was idolatry, going into the constellation, the worship of the sun, the moon, the stars. If you look at world religion today, everything is fashioned around the constellation. Like Christianity is based upon sun worship. That's why you worship on Sunday. Islam is based upon moon worship. That's why you see the crescent moon and a rock.
Does astrology count?
Astrology also. So, and you notice one thing, I'm not sure you, women more than men, more often, anytime they meet somebody,
you gotta say in
what's your
my
sign?
opinion. You gotta say in my opinion, Captain.
All right.
Women,
So this is what I have observed.
Yes.
This is what I have observed from my experience. Women more than often, when you meet them, they base your relationship, or before they even engage in a conversation, they always say, what is your sign? Oh, I'm a Sagittarius. I'm a Cancer. I'm a Gemini. They say, oh, that means we're compatible. Or they said, oh, I can tell you this individual based upon your characteristics. Oh, you're a Sagittarius, you're a Cancer. It's no different from our foremother Eve. The first sin that she learned or accepted was going into the constellation, the worship of idolatry, going into the sun, the moon, the stars, or horoscopes. And that's why women do it today. They follow the mother Eve.
I want to get deeper into that
Bang,
conversation.
bang.
Well, maybe we could get into that conversation in February, surrounding the whole conversation of Valentine's Day and whatnot. But I want to get into our topics today in January. And I wanted to start off specifically because right now in Philadelphia, we're having a mayoral election. And one of the biggest conversations surrounding the mayoral election is the opioid epidemic. So I wanted to start there, and I wanted to just ask you your opinion on why do you feel like the opioid epidemic started in, the white community and is now overflowing into the Black community, and statistics are showing harming us more at an alarming rate.
Now, notice how, like you said, it's the opioid epidemic, but what about the crack epidemic in the 1980s? What you're going to realize is only an epidemic or an issue once it hits white people. Drugs were brought into the Black communities, or in America in general. Drug is big business. That's why they went to Iraq and they overthrew the government, because drugs, you have opioid, comes from the poppy seed or heroin. It's different plants that they acquired from overseas, from different countries. So it's only an epidemic because it's hitting white people. What about the crack epidemic? Drugs was used as a means to destroy Black people. I want to get that real quick in Habakkuk chapter 3. Habakkuk chapter 3, verse...
And for everybody who's tuning in right now on the 98.5 side, I do apologize. I'm doing my best to work on the sound. I see my text messages. I see the alerts and everything. I'm doing my best to work on the sound on the 98.5 side.
Now, is it on my end, or is it...
No, it has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with us over here in the station.
Okay.
If you are tapped in, you can still see what we're doing, because we are simultaneously broadcasting on Instagram Live at Revival. So I was also saying that so you can see why my head is on the swivels, because I'm trying to work on the sound. On the radio side. But keep going, I'm listening.
Yes. So like I said, it's only an epidemic when it hits white communities. Drug initially was brought in during the 70s as well as the 80s, the crack epidemic and the war drugs under the Reagan administration, but was brought under what is the Nixon administration. The FBI as well as the CIA worked with drug lords such as, I forgot, Pablo Escobar was very famous for bringing in crack into the Black community. Now, if I read Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 14, it states, "Thou didst strike through with his staves the head of his villages. They came out as a whirlwind to scatter me. Their rejoicing was as to devour the poor secretly." So the main agenda, America's agenda, is to devour us secretly. What do? You take away a nationality from a people, for us, for example. They call us African Americans, Negroes, Jamaicans, Haitians. These are titles that was given to us in slavery, which is not our biblical God-given nationality. So you take away somebody's culture. You take away where they used to live. You take away the title of even being a human being. They call Black people in the Constitution 3/5 of a man. So now you take the Black man out of the house and you put him in the prisons. What do? You give him something to ease the burden or to comfort him. So what do? You put drugs in the community and you further destroy them.
Pain too, because remember when you brought up the word pain, That's why I said I think this was a great segue into our word of the day, or the word that you used to define the word of the day as far as pain, because a lot of us are going through pain, so we're using, substances to actually cope with it, as you just described.
Yeah, and that's the wrong thing. You're supposed to take your pain and direct it towards something that's going to be useful, that's going to be meaningful, that's going to bring self-improvement and perseverance. You're supposed to persevere through pain to become a better person, and to make sure those that come after you don't witness or experience those same pains that you experience, whether it be negatively or positively. But now check this out. This is in Psalms chapter 119, verse 49. This is what you're supposed to do when you go through pain or any type of sorrow or depression. Psalms 119, verse 49. Remember the word unto thy servant, upon which thou hast caused me to hope. So God's word is supposed to cause us to hope. Anytime you're going through some type of pain, anytime some type of sorrow, loss of family member, loss of job, or you put in a position of depression where you feel that you cannot overcome or persevere through your current situation or your trials, you're supposed to go back to God's word, where it's going to cause us to hope. Verse 50. This is my affliction, this is my comfort in my affliction, for thy word hath quickened me. So your comfort, and while you're going through pain, while you're suffering, going through depression, you're not supposed to go to drugs, alcohol, or some of our sisters like to use that as an outlet, sex as an outlet for comfort. I'm not sure if you saw the movie Monster with Halle Berry.
Some men like to use sex as an outlet as well.
Yeah, but I want to get on a woman right now. I'll get on men next. Because I'm a man.
Talk to us. I'm listening.
So I'm going to speak to my sisters because I love my sisters.
I hear you.
And we're trying to build up the Black community. So I got myself right, so I want to get my sisters right along with us. Because I'm righteous men need wives. So, like some women will, like if you look at Monster with Halle Berry, when her husband, I believe her husband died, or her son, I think it was the husband or the son died. One of them, I think the son died. So Billy, whatever his name is, she told them, listen, she was crying, she was in pain, she was sorrowful. And she said, listen, I want you to make me feel good. I want you to make it go away, make me feel good. And she used sex as an outlet to escape her pain rather than dealing with it head on. We try to escape our trauma and our pain, and by going through or using substance, some type of abusive substance, such as alcohol or drugs, which leads us to a deeper, darker state of pain and depression, sometimes which we can't climb out of. Mm-hmm. You dig the hole deep enough, sometimes you're going to dig the hole deep to your death. Mm-hmm. Think about it. How's drugs benefit you in depression and sorrow?
That's what I'm saying, because right now, based on how statistics are shown, especially as we end the year of 2022, statistics are showing that it's an alarming rate happening to brown and Black people in our communities as far as dying from the opioid epidemic.
And that's because Black people have not yet realized their power and not realized yet their strength. We tend to gravitate towards things that's going to give us a false sense of security and upliftment. Those things, you cannot escape your reality, but you can only face it head on. You got to face the trauma and the pain straight forth, or no matter what wall or barrier lies before you, you got to be able to break through all of them. And that's what, like I said, that's what faith, having faith in Christ, gives you the strength and ability to be able to break through these walls of trauma.
I appreciate that. And I want to talk about a little bit more about trauma, and I'm going to add that into our February conversation. So, like, how does trauma, intertwine with the book? Where does the book speak about trauma, and where, a person can actually reference it if they need to go in that direction? I want to get into our conversation a little bit more today, because last time before we wrapped up, we mentioned a little bit about Israel, and I wanted to ask you, what's the update with Israel, and how is it affecting us here in the United States?
Well, in general, let me to start this off, anybody that's new to the conversation, the people living in the land of Israel are not the true biblical Jews. They're not the Jews. They're converts. They converted to Judaism all the way to the time period John Hyrcanus, when we ruled over Jerusalem and the Herodians. So you have people living in that land, imposters or Ashkenazis or Khazarian Jews, or they're converts. We're the true Jews according to the Bible that suffer the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 15 to 68. Now, the Israel controversy is, if you read the book of Isaiah, chapter 34, verse 8, it says this: "For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance and the year of recompense for the controversy of Zion." So the main issue going on with the Israel relationship is them living in a land that doesn't belong to them, and everything that they do affects the world global politics as well as the economy.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that has any dealings with Israel is going to suffer the same fate for the prophecy that the prophecy has in store for them. Now, politically, like I said, Israel.
Go ahead. You about to answer what I was about to ask you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, what I was about to ask you, about to answer. Politically, why would you say that?
Because Israel is trying to maintain, or like I said, there's political issues going on in Israel based upon the Palestinians, whether that land belongs to them or not. That land was stolen from us. Like I said, as we were exiled out of the land, they took our place, our customs, and during, like I said, the League of Nations in 1948, it is called, I believe it is called, when they replaced us to the land, they was placed in 1948 by the League of Nations by Britain. If you go, I'm going to go to real quick Ezekiel chapter 30, Ezekiel 35, verse 5. I'll say Ezekiel 35, verse 10. I'll start at verse 2. It says, Ezekiel 35, verse 2, "Son of man, set thy face against Mount Seir and prophesy against it." So Mount Seir are the people that we call today Idumeans or Edomites or Esau, all Caucasians, whether it be French, Dutch, British, Germans, Ukrainians, Russians, as well as the people calling themselves Jewish today. They're all biblical descendants from Esau or Edom. They're the children of Esau. So it says, verse 10, "Because thou hast said, these two nations and these two countries shall be mine, and we will possess it, whereas the Lord was there." So they took claim to real estate that doesn't belong to them. They stole land that was never promised to them. These two countries, the first country was America, that they took from the native North American Indians, as well as the land of Israel that belonged to our people. They took America as well as the land of Israel. And they became the Christians as well as Jews, because the Christians were always Jews. I'll say it again. The Christians were black Jews, dark Jews, me and you. The Jews were black people. So America took the identity of the Christians of the Bible, as well as the people, the Israeli people, the inhabitants of the land, took the identity of the Jews of the Bible.
So what's happening now, I would say, for people to be on an updated tip, like what's happening right now in Israel, so people can be updated on what's happening right now?
So it's been happening since the time period that they inhabit the land, in terms of the Arab as well as the Israeli conflict, whether or not that piece of land or that real estate belongs to them. And also, in addition, they're trying to build a temple the temple, or the third temple. I know we spoke about that before. They're trying to establish on Palestinian territory, and they're even looking to go under the ground in order to collapse what's there right now. So that's one of the biggest things they're trying. And under the Trump administration, they actually made the land of, I think it's Tel Aviv or Jerusalem, the capital state. And Trump also made Judaism a nationality. Who gave Trump the power or authority to make a religion a nationality if they weren't a nationality for the beginning?
So why would a religion need nationality status?
Exactly. And this is the reason why. If you go to Daniel chapter 11, verse 14, this is the reason why a religion needs a nationality status, because they understand they're not the people of the book. Think about it. A person that calls themselves Jews, when have they ever identified by the tribes? Never. They never call themselves, I'm from the tribe of Judah. But when we speak, we say we're from the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, Levi, or Levi the Haitians, Benjamin, West Indians, African Americans, Judah, the Dominicans, Simeon, Puerto Ricans, Ephraim. They never, when we speak about nationalism or our race, we speak in terms of tribes. They never speak of that. They says, oh, we're Israeli, meaning inhabitants of the land. So they're the inhabitants of the land and not descendants of the man. So if you look at Daniel chapter 11, verse 14, it says, and in those times there shall be, and in those times there shall many stand up against the king of the south. Also the robbers of thy people, I'll say it again. I don't think you heard me. Also the robbers of thy people, let me say it one more time, like my good friend Umar Johnson likes to do. Also the robbers of thy people, how did they rob us? They robbed us of our resources. They robbed us of our gold, our silver and gold in the temple. They robbed us of our land. They robbed us of our nationality, our identity, as well as our records.
So what does it do for them, though? What does making this religion nationality do for the Israelites?
Check this out. So I'm going to get to that 1 second. Also, the robbers of thy peoples shall exalt themselves to establish the vision, but they shall fall. So the whole purpose of establishing Judaism as a nationality is to establish the vision of them being the Israelites, to keep the lie going. Because America and Israel sleeps in the same bed.
Why?
Now, you said, what is the purpose?
Yeah, that was a hell of a comment. Why did you say that?
America is the great whore called Babylon the Great, in which she has lied politically, economically, and religiously with all nations on the earth. And America, Israel's relationship is one of the closest because the two of them decided collectively that, listen, we're going to make a deal. And what this deal is, I'm going to take hold on the resources as well as the land, because if you look at most of the Jewish people, they have access to the resources as well as the banking, the gold, the mining, all these things they have access to. America has political power, military power. So the two of them combined together has a global control over the whole world. Only if America agrees to establish the lie. That's the deal that America has with Israel, as well as the two of them have with Satan, to keep both of them in power.
So is that the reason why Trump did what he did while he was in office?
Yes, he has to do what he did. All of them in agreement. All of them work for their higher power, which is Satan. Everything is a covenant agreement. Think about it. In order to receive, you have to give. You don't just get and don't give anything in return.
So when it comes down to well, let me leave it there. Let me leave it there because I want to go to our next topic. I appreciate you for breaking that down. I want to go on to a little bit about culture, and I actually got this question from my sister. She wanted me to ask this question. It says, how are we as a culture and people contributing to the end of time? What can we do differently?
So who as a culture?
It was the word we. So I'm guessing black and brown people, or just black.
You know why the reason why I said the word who as a culture? Black people don't really have a culture.
That's the real thing. We create one. It wasn't something that was established, but African Americans, as Black people living in America, we definitely had to create our own culture. It wasn't something that was established, and we had to go out and learn and do our own research to figure out, what tribe we are from and things like that, so we can, go back and do our history and create some type of culture surrounding that as well. Now,
the question I have for you: what type of culture have we created in America, Black people, from your perspective?
I think it's a whole a cuisine, or I would say, I guess we would call it a cuisine. It's a whole cuisine that we established as Black Americans called soul food. It's a thing, and it's around the world. It's a national thing, right?
Our culture, think about it.
Soul food
is slave food.
That has transformed into a national thing that you see everywhere. Soul food is a thing. I would say that. And everybody else comments right now, if you have something as far as some type of culture that we as Black Americans have created, please drop it in. Let me know. But yes, bring it out.
You know what soul food creates? Let me tell you something. Soul food creates high blood pressure, diabetes.
We're not talking
Black
about
culture
that.
is death culture.
We're talking about taking food. We're talking about taking scraps of food from what was given to us from, not having any, and creating some type of meal surrounding it. That's what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
I'm not talking about the barriers of what the culture has stimulated, because there's some things in, the Irish culture and the cultures in the West Indies that are not so helpful or harmful, that are harmful as well.
Black people, and now I'm not gonna knock out people, because like I said, we do our best in the conditions or like I said, the conditions that's provided towards us. But just to speak on that, And that speaks on how great of a people we are and how blessed we are, even at the lowest state. We're the greatest people. I agree with you. But I also want to touch on a point that Black people don't really have a culture. We have a made-up culture that's based upon society's construct. Like, for example, the foods that we eat is based upon slave food. And one of the biggest things within soul food or slave food is pork. Pork has no nutritional value that contributes to Black health or Black wealth. Pork is one of the most decimated or destructive foods that one could eat. If you read the book of Leviticus chapter 11, but Black people call that soul food, and you wonder why the Black woman's at the doctor talking about, I got gout.
I didn't want to get you started. I didn't want to get you started about soul food. I was literally just answering.
I know, sis. I just want to pick on you for a second.
But I do want you to answer my question, though. Like, when it comes down to us as a culture, you know, even though we broke down what the word culture means and how is Black Americans defined our culture, you know, how are we contributing to that, though, as far as the end of times?
We can't contribute to anything that's empty. We don't have a culture. Our culture was always established based upon some type of biblical standard. Like, for example, you have everybody looks at the Bible as what? Everybody looks at the Bible as a religious book, or some people look at it as a book that is made up of mysticism. The Bible is a book of principles. It's a constitutional book. The first 5 books of Moses, from Genesis to Deuteronomy, is the constitution of the Black man, as well as the Black woman, the Latino man, the Latino woman, as well as the Native American Indian man, and all those that are scattered throughout the diaspora. For example, this is Ecclesiasticus or Sirach and Apocrypha, chapter 17, verse 11. It says, besides this, he gave them knowledge and the law of life for an heritage. God gave us the laws of life. The first 5 books of Moses was given to us to establish our culture, to establish some type of heritage or something that we could claim towards. For example, the Arabs. You can identify them by what they wear, by the foods they eat, by the laws such as Sharia law, by their conduct towards the women, the men, as well as the children. When it comes to us, our culture was established in terms of our dress attire. Women always wore dresses. That was the Black man, that was the Black woman's culture. Men wore pants. We didn't wear dresses like the society puts today. We had cultures in terms of dress attire. We had cultures in terms of food. We didn't have soul food, which is unhealthy or, like it says, destructive. We have biblical food. We have foods, clean animals that you could eat, as well as unclean animals that you're not allowed to eat. But we made it cultural to eat shrimp, crab, lobster. The South, they eat possum. They eat turtle. They eat all these unclean, defiled foods.
So let me get into this comment right quick, because I do want to address some of the comments. It says, we are more proud of our struggle than focusing on where we'll triumph. What's your thoughts on that?
We are more focused on our struggle. Now, it's not so much the struggle. It's so much bringing a light to who we are. In order to understand the triumph, you cannot triumph with having some type of past understanding of your past. Because triumph towards what? What do we have to triumph towards? Because a lot of people in America think that they're fine, okay, with the current conditions and living. If you've been ruled over for centuries, what do you have to triumph over? You don't have a government. You don't have a land. So what are you doing? Are you trying to triumph economically? So understanding our struggle is going to lead us to our past and why we're in a situation, and that will give us the ingredients in order to triumph over. If you read the book of Job, chapter 8, verse 8, Job states, usually I have a reader for me, but so I'm a little slow. No, it's kind of hard to talk.
You're fine.
The book of Job, chapter 8, verse 8. If I could sign Job, my man, my Black brother Job, which said, my skin is black.
And then I want to go to topics because we got about 11 minutes left.
Yes, so Job chapter 8, verse 8. For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers. For we are but of yesterday and know nothing, because our days upon earth are a shadow. So Job prepared himself for the search of the fathers. He was prophetically speaking to our people in the last days. You cannot triumph without understanding your fathers and why we have the struggles in the first place. Our struggles as well as our conditions was created by our own actions. And it's the consequences for the choices that we made in life. So you cannot improve or you cannot persevere or triumph. Repeat.
Increase.
or the word of the day. You cannot increase without understanding. Understanding will give you the ability as well as the power to triumph or increase or persevere. So you have to understand, why are you struggling? Because you broke God's laws in the book of Deuteronomy 28, verse 15.
Do you feel like that's why a lot of us are dealing with, I'm going to bring back up this conversation of spiritual warfare. Do you feel like that's why a lot of us are dealing with the spiritual warfare right now? That's within ourselves, is because of that?
100%. Deuteronomy 28, verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I command thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. That's why. Because we made a contract agreement with God. He said, keep my commandments and I'll make you the greatest nation. We wouldn't have to triumph. We wouldn't have to persevere. We wouldn't have to struggle if only we kept God's commandments. But when we broke God's commandments, you have single parenting household. You have 86% of the prison population is made up of black men and Latino men. You have 19 million babies were aborted since 1973.
So
you have.
So let me ask you this question, right? And this actually goes into my next question. Speaking of, all the things that you just named, with so many distractions as far as mentally, politically, physically, and systematically in our everyday lives, what do we need to do daily to be saved from our enemy forces of the Most High?
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that
Shout
question.
Out to my Bad Money. She wrote these last two questions.
Excuse me. So, what do we need to do daily? Study, pray, and apply. Study, pray, and apply. That's what we need to do in order to persevere. Give me 1 second.
And do you feel like motivation, self-help, speakers and books such as that, do you think that those apply to the aspect of prayer and meditation?
Yes, I'm going to answer 1 second. It's one of the scriptures. Acts chapter 17, verse 11, in terms of how do we persevere daily? How do we overcome these thoughts in society? Acts 17, verse 11. These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind and searched the scriptures daily, whether those things were so. So you got to search the scriptures daily. You got to study, pray, and apply every day. That's the only thing. Only thing we have in this world is faith to carry us through. The faith and the reward. So now, can you repeat that last question again?
No, elaborate a little bit on that. When you say the only thing that we have, is faith and reward. I want to hear a little bit more about that.
The faith and reward is that the reward, the reason why, think about it. This whole society that we're fighting against was by divine design. We created it based upon our choices, and people don't realize that. We are the author of our own world. We are the artists in our own picture, painting. So art imitates life imitates art. The choice that we made in the book of Deuteronomy 28, when it says, if we don't keep God's commandments, all these curses shall come upon us and overtake us. We created the world that we complain about. Mm-hmm. I don't think people realize that. Don't complain if you're not looking to change. If you don't want to complain, you got to keep God's commandments. That's the reason why we're in this situation. Now, I want to read Matthew chapter 17, verse 21. We can overcome all things.
Even if you like 1 out of 1,000, like let's say, Captain, you are withholding the commandments, and then you see yourself in an environment or a situation where you're 1 out of 1,000. How can you last? Like that is mental. That can take a really huge mental sense of pain, as we just discussed, for someone to endure.
Love it and embrace it. Love the pain, embrace the pain. Because through the pain, it fashions something that you never seen before. That gold tried in a fire, and that diamond that has that pressure that makes you that precious commodity. Mm-hmm. God wants to break us. He wants to break us, then shape us, and mold us to the person that he wants us to be. Mm. And then when we overcome this, then you're going to see who you really are. Mm. The person that you are and the person I am, this is not it. Mm-hmm. This is just a vehicle to get to what we really are and what we want it to be until we're actually changed. Now, the only thing that's going to bring us through the trial of the fire is this, Matthew 17, verse 20. And Jesus said unto them, because of your unbelief, for verily I say unto you, if you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed. So a mustard seed is something very small. You shall say unto this mountain, the mountain represents your problems, your trials, your tribulations. If you have faith as a grain of a mustard seed, you shall say unto this mountain, remove hence to yonder place, and it shall remove, and nothing shall be impossible unto you. Things are only impossible within an untrained, undisciplined mind, a mind that doesn't have faith. So Christ said, if you have faith of a mustard seed, nothing should be impossible to you. Our people lack faith, and they have fear.
So let me ask a follow-up question that I asked earlier as far as listening to like motivational speakers and self-help books and stuff like that. Do you feel like that helps with the applying aspect?
Yes.
You know?
I would say that does help. That does help. You know why? Because I use it to help me. I use a lot of things. I pray. I not only study, I pray, I apply, but I put it in action. I listen to the scriptures. I listen to the Bible all the time. And you know what? You motivate your motivational speakers such as your Les Browns, your Eric Thompson, your David Goggins. You know what they all have in mind? Their number one source of resource is what? Where did they get the resource and their motivation from, or the speeches from?
Well, I know
the Bible.
About the ET speaks directly from the Bible. Yeah.
Everybody gets their motivation from the Bible, so they're just taking something and it's reiterating. That's what they're doing. So why not go to the source? Now that's nothing wrong with that. I listen to them to give me an extra drive and push. Go ahead, do it, because all goes back to the Bible. What do they talk about in motivational speech? Discipline. The Bible talks about discipline. Where do you get discipline? From the laws of God, to discipline your thoughts, your actions, your deeds, to get up and do something and make something of your life and stop complaining. The Bible does that. The Bible talks about surely oppression maketh the wise man mad. Our father didn't complain. They got up and they did something and they put their lives on the line. That's what discipline is. There's no such thing as motivation, but discipline and consistency.
That's a really strong accusation to say there's no such thing as motivation.
Think about it. I need to motivate myself to get up to get in the gym. You know how many times I told myself I need to get up to get to the gym, but I still didn't get up? Only thing that's going to get me up to the gym is what? Discipline.
Yeah.
Stop being lazy.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. I definitely agree with you on that. So do you feel like when it comes down to, applying discipline, what are the biggest aspects right now in applying discipline for people?
The biggest issue in applying discipline is this. Wisdom Solomon chapter 9, verse 15. For the corruptible body presses down the soul, and the earthly tabernacle weigheth down the mind that museth upon many things. America was made to press down our earthly temple, our earthly flesh. Daily we battle with our thoughts, and America illuminates the wickedness within our thoughts. They illuminate the lust.
That's why I wanted to bring up the opioid situation, because our thoughts are making us use those substances.
Yes.
But keep you off, but keep going.
It's a daily struggle. I'm not saying it's easy. It's very difficult. But what else choice do we have? Do we just lie over and just die? No. So America was made to press us down. Now, like I said, either you can be pressed down and you're going to persevere and overcome and shine like that diamond. What does Rihanna say? Shine light like a diamond. So if you want to shine like a diamond, then you got to get pressed down. So society has pressed us down through their, like I said, the different things that they have in place to oppress us. Yes, we are oppressed. There's different institutions that's made to keep us down. People say, oh, don't complain. Stop complaining about society keeping you down. It does keep us down. They do oppress us. They put it in your movies. They put it in your schools. They keep you from getting hired. There's things put in place against us.
So let me ask you this last thing. Let me get into our last topic, Captain. So explain the prophecy of either Daniel or Ezekiel. Which one are we currently living in, or both?
Both.
And before you start that, I want to shout out IUIC Philadelphia. Big out to everybody to tune into today's conversation. Again, this is something that we're continuing the conversation. Big shout out to Captain
Joelle for coming through and stepping in place and making sure that the conversation is going to continue to go forward. So if you have any questions, topics, or concerns throughout the month before we get into our next monthly topic or monthly segment, please hit me up. Let me know exactly what you want us to be talking about. These conversations are for you and about you. So I definitely appreciate you all for tuning in and tapping in. And thank you for everybody who was, making sure that we got those airwaves back up on the 98.5 side. I know y'all want to be listening in on y'all evening drive as well on y'all way home. So yes, Captain, back to you. So my question is, explain the prophecy of either Daniel or Ezekiel, and which one are we currently living in, or both?
We're living the whole prophecy of the Bible, but I'll read Daniel chapter 7. Since you mentioned Daniel and Ezekiel. Daniel chapter 7, verse 9. I beheld till the thrones were cast down. So Daniel prophetically was able to see the future vision of all ruling kingdoms and empires being cast down. Daniel saw Babylon being cast down. He saw Persia. He saw Greece. He saw Rome. And finally, the last ruling kingdom or empire to rule is America. Daniel saw America being cast down out of his rulership.
Mm-hmm.
And the Ancient of Days did sit. The Ancient of Days meaning God Almighty did sit on his throne.
Mm-hmm.
Whose garment was white as snow. And God had a garment. Because why? God has a body. And the hair of his head like the pure wool. God had woolly hair, just like you, sis. God had this. You have the same hair texture as God, as well as myself, as well as all black people, because God is a black man.
Mm-hmm.
His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. Verse 10. And a fiery stream issued and came forth from before him, and thousands and thousands ministered unto him. Let me get to the point. Okay, verse 11. And I beheld then, because of the voice of the great words which the horn spake, I beheld even to the beast was slain, and his body destroyed and given to the burning flame. So that's the future prophecy of America being destroyed by future flame, meaning thermonuclear destruction. America's going to be destroyed and decimated off of this earth. Now, after America's destroyed, verse 28, this is where we come into the prophecy. Verse 25, verse 28, verse 27. And the kingdom and dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people of the saints of the Most High. So the kingdom, the greatness, the glory, the riches, the wealth, the land, the water, everything is going to be given to black and brown people once again, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall obey and serve him. Everybody's going to serve the black man.
But you said
every knee shall bow.
But this will happen after Babylon falls, quote unquote.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's when a black man will rule next to his black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we're going to be unified. No more fighting, no more abortion, no more arguing, no more.
So you would say we're living in Daniel currently.
Oh, yeah. We're living all prophecy, but we are making our way through in the chronology of the prophecy of Daniel. We're waiting for America to fall first.
Why you say Daniel over Ezekiel, if you don't mind me asking?
Ezekiel, a lot of time, is more historical. There's prophecies. There's a lot. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of prophecies going to Ezekiel, like I read earlier. I read the nations taking our land. These two nations, these two countries. But I like Daniel because it says God is black in it. So that's why I went to Daniel.
Straight like that. I appreciate you, Captain, for your honesty today, man. I think today's conversation went extremely well. Thank you for everything as far as engaging in today's conversation and, bringing forth just, your perspective and your opinion and speaking your truth for sure. So I'll take this time to shout out IUIC Philadelphia, how people can find more information, website, social media, all that good stuff.
Yes. Thank you for having me on as usual. Love your platform. You're doing a wonderful work, by the way. You can reach us at iuic.philadelphia@israelunite.org. You can email us. Also, like I said, you can visit our school. You can call us. In addition, visit our website, www.israelunite.org. We have an app called IUIC TV. We have our own app platform. You can visit us in IUIC in a classroom. You can also donate to us to help this mission. All right?
Definitely. For sure. And you can always see them out and about here on the streets of Philadelphia, man, making sure they educate the people, the community here in the city of Philadelphia. So if you see them here on the streets, man, stop and speak, say something, because they definitely going to say something to you. Even if you don't got nothing to say to them, they're going to make sure they speak to you, man.
Oh, you're going to get this work.
So we appreciate the work that y'all doing, man, to make sure that y'all giving back to the community in many different ways. And I will talk to you next month, in the month of February, and we're gonna come with a love conversation. I want to know, how we can, interact with the book when it comes to love, faith, and holding on. Since you always coming after us women, I'm gonna make sure I got some direct questions for y'all men as well.
Okay, bring it on, sis.
What is a nation? Nation is family. Nation is community. Nation is men leading by example. Nation is women's support. Nation is children with role models. Nation is unity. Nation